I'm Rick, and this is your seat at the table, and we're looking at BattleTech MechWarrior Intelligence Operations Handbook for BattleTech. Let me get my little minis out of the way here so I don't knock them around. Now, this particular episode is just going to be a general overview of this book, because my intention is to come back at a later point and go through each house and each intelligence network individually, because there's such a rich environment. This is more suited for MechWarrior, the role-playing game, than it is for BattleTech Tabletop, although there's possible connections and things like that. They're all related to some degree. No significant power in any era of human civilization has functioned well without some kind of, quote, intelligence network, some kind of agency or group of individuals or whatever who can get information and keep tabs on the enemy and allies alike to bring information to the house ruler, the rulers of the realm, to give them the ability to make educated decisions, usually. The other adjective or old saying would go, a sword in your face is not as deadly as a dagger in your back. And sometimes you can affect policy and prevent war and prevent things from happening by sticking somebody in the back or preventing them from doing it to you. And that's where these things come in. So I have read this book numerous times. It has been a go-to for a number of campaigns and stuff over the years, and I really had a lot of enjoyment out of it. This was produced in 1993 by FASA, and it's a pretty elaborate source book. That's why I said we're just going to do an overview of it on this particular version. So it's produced by the Wolfnet Classified Report Alpha Level Clearance, the Chocolate Clan Invasion, etc., etc. Introduction, Role of Intelligence, Wolfnet, Colonel Wolf's Report, Steiner Challenge and Change, Karita the Rise of the Dragon, the Merrick Civil War, Daviad's Dueling with Capella, Post-Fourth Succession War, the Clan War, New Developments, No Review, House Steiner. The Lyran Intelligence Corps, being in addition to one of the oldest and most well-established intelligence agencies in the Inner Sphere, is probably the most reliable Secret Service organization currently operating within the successor states. Unable to rely on its military, which is well known for its general inefficiency and tendency to bungle operations, the Lyran Commonwealth depends on its intelligence corps to safeguard and expand the power of the realm. The Archon's death and her son's marked preference for its Davion subjects, however, recently casted out. Okay, so you can understand that this particular book was written about the time of the FedCom situation, before the FedCom Civil War and the conclusion of Klan invasion. So it's biased to that aspect, but. Now, the Lick has always represented the strongest aspects of Lyran spirit and ambition, repeatedly forced to compensate for military inadequacy. Just giving you a little overview. So we got a briefing. We got separatists, monitoring safe operations, a brief history, Guardians of the Steiners, an agent known as Snowfire, their connection to being a secret police. To deal with a situation requiring a modified military response, the Lick maintains a terrorist secret police unit known as Loci, which operates under the umbrella of Lick's espionage branch, which has had some issues depending on what Archon is in charge. Under United Realms and the Lick, command structure, Lick branches, the Norns, Intelligence Command Network, Diplomatic Guard, Diplomatic Corps, Longerheim. Of all the branches elected, Longerheim maintains the most specific background requirements for the candidates, because the kind of work Longerheim operatives undertake the unit accepts only orphans with no family ties as agents. Propaganda, espionage, the Bonadins, the Mole Hunters, Loci, Heimdall, which is not really part of Lick. Not part of Lick, the Shattery Group appears to have developed concurrently with Loci in response to that organization's abuses of its fearsome power. Only its members and the fortunate few who Heimdall have aided can attest to its existence, although some evidence supports the rumors that the organized group does exist under this name, even though the rumors only whispered fragments of secret conversations. Headquarters and training, strengths and weaknesses, Snyder-Davion relations, we got personalities, Commander-in-Chief, Lyran Intelligence Corps, various others. We got the Department of Military Intelligence, or Federated Sons, House Davion. Overview, briefing, maintaining a Federated Sons borders. Aside from the Draconis Combine, the most militaristic of the successor states throughout the history has been the Federated Sons. It feels one of the most experienced and effective war machines in the inner sphere. Despite their claims that they use their enormous military power only to achieve noble goals, the actions of the Federated Sons on several occasions have given lie to this claim. In the bloody years of the war that marked the nearly 3 centuries since the fall of the Star League, the Federated Sons has survived by relying on a vast army of battle mech and conventional regiments, and has proven as ruthless as any of its supposedly less than noble neighbors. Disruption of compelling operations, strengthening relations with St. Ives, locating the clan homeworlds, Comstar surveillance, all current operations for the as of 3050, I believe. I'm not exactly sure of the exact date. I don't see anything jumping out at me. McKenna's hegemony, Comstar brief history, Age of War, rise and fall of the Star League, succession wars. Revenge of the Fox, birth of the Federated Commonwealth, command structure, operational procedures, rank and file. Something to keep a note: most houses operate different. Federated Comms actually has, or Federated Sons actually has several entities that kind of overlap each other with individual groups, because there's the Department of Military Intelligence, and which is one agency, but there's also Milo, which is another agency, and they're interconnected. Sometimes they get confused as being part of the same stuff, and it's not necessarily the truth. So DMI's branches, MI1 Command, MI2 Analyst Speculation, Electronic Information Gathering, Covert Operations, Counterinsurgency, Special Forces, Intelligence, Secretariat. This is a group created in formation of the Federated Commonwealth, replacing the original Milo Legion. This department coordinates the day-to-day operations of the DMI, the LIC, the MIIO, the new MI7 forms LIC, DMI, the DMI and Milo's planned operations, general attention. So in the Federated, for the House Steiner has the Lyran Intelligence Corps, literally the LIC. The Federated Sons actually has, like I said, they have DMI and they have Milo. There's 2 separate groups that do different. It's like CIA and the FBI. So in our country, in America, we have 2 different organizations with different areas of responsibility that sometimes intermix. And then there's other entities as well, and so it works the same way. So we got the Milo here. Ministry of Information Intelligence Operations serves as a civilian counterpart to the Department of Military Intelligence. See the differences? Okay, so covert operations, information gathering, Bureau of Internal Investigation, counterintelligence, regional operations, headquarters and training, strengths and weaknesses. You can see why it's each one of these organizations would be worthy of having it in its own video done on it. In my opinion, if you agree with that, by all means, put a comment down there. Let me know that that's something you'd like me to do, because I'm willing to do it. Internal Security Force, for the ISF. For the people of the inner sphere, the mere mention of the Internal Security Force calls up images of torture and oppression. The ISF are easily most widely known and feared intelligence service currently active in successor states. They have been responsible for continuing suppression of free thought and dissenting opinion amongst the people of Draconis Combine, and have perpetrated the most outrageous attacks on rival states. The propaganda machines of the other succession states would have readers and listeners believe that the ISF is a barbaric, monstrous group hell-bent on inflicting pain and misery on any who stray from the creed ideals. Perhaps that vision of the organization has been true at times, but close inspection of the ISF's activities show the agency be no worse than a group such as the Mescarocara or LIC, particularly LIC's loci. It just goes without saying. They get a lot of heat. They take a lot of bad press in the other houses. They're very damn good. So that's well earned. Briefing, current objectives, brief history. Follow the Star League, Shadow War in the Aftermath, Takashi Kurita in the ISF. Something also interesting about the ISF and the coordinator, not always lockstep. While the ISF answers to the coordinator and acts on the coordinator's directives, the ISF has a lot of autonomy to do a lot of what it plans, what it thinks is necessary. And sometimes the director of the ISF believes that it's his goal and his duty to serve the state and the house, not an individual person such as who happens to be the coordinator at the moment. So there's always some skullduggery and things potentially going on behind the scenes. Yeah, it goes on to talk about that a little bit in there too. Command structure, ISF branches, covert operations, internal security, voice of the dragon, special units, the Draconis elite strike teams. Dest. After the director of the ISF became a ranking member of it, use of Draconis strike teams belong exclusively to the ISF. Men and women of these units are only one of the most deadly fighting forces currently active in the inner sphere, equal in ability to House Leal's Death Commandos, House Steiner's Loci units, House Davion's Rabbit Foxes. Qualify for Dest. So Dest has a pretty fearsome reputation, these Draconis elite strike teams. And it wouldn't sometimes want you to think that their other houses don't have their equivalents, and that's not true. That simply isn't true. They really do have their equivalents, and they're just as ruthless and dedicated and capable. And then we have an individual group called the Sons of the Dragon, basically kind of an organization or cult-like organization within the ISF that's very specific. Ghost regiments, which technically is not part of the ISF, it's just a entity that allowed Theodore Creed to come up with some additional military forces to bolster the Draconis Combine through many decades of conflict during the Klan, prior to, during, and after the Klan War invasion. Somehow they just included it in here. House Creed, their headquarters, training, strengths and weaknesses, weapons training, psychological warfare, various personalities within the organization. So we get the Mascaralca, and I can never pronounce this right. I just know I can. I hear other people do, and they do a good job. To a certain extent, the various intelligence services of the inner sphere reflect the character of the governments they serve. DMI, the Federated Sons, for example, gets effective results more often by fair means than foul, while the Draconis Combines ISF inspires fear throughout the inner states, successor states for its fierceness to which its agents carry out the unbending will of their coordinator. When describing the infamous House Leal Mescaralca, even the most barbaric word falls short. Since Chancellor's son Zhao Leo took over, the intelligence organization's worst successes had ended, but even recently as the reign of late Maximilian Leal, the savage tactics used to accomplish their mission surpassed even those of the ISF. Sometimes the massacre can be very effective, very good at what they do. Probably too exuberant at sometimes, where the ISF is a tactical surgical weapon. The massacre can come off as a blunt force of nature. They will blow up an entire city block to get one target. They don't think twice about it. It might be not the most subtle method of a secret service effectively doing what they're supposed to do, but the effectiveness of it usually is pretty good, unless they're countered by somebody else, right? So briefing, the Owl-Merrick relations, brief history, the rise of the Mascara, time of tribulations, years peace, war renewed, Maximilian the Schemer, Operation Doppelganger, recent events. Like I said, there are a lot of good stuff in here. It really, truly would need to be done on an individual case-by-case basis, in my opinion. Various branches, death commandos, headquarters and training, strengths and weaknesses, personalities. And we get to House Merrick. Safe. You know, I've heard some non-canon explanations to just what the acronym SAFE actually represents, and I can't tell you out of my head, off the top of my head, what the non-canons say it does. But I don't know of anything in here that specifically says this is what SAFE represents. I'm pretty sure you'd think it would have said something, but I don't know. Search and find everything is not one of those things that I found in here. Sorry. I'm saying it isn't, but it's just not one of those things I found in here. Right? You know, even trying to explain SAFE, it's a bit of a... You can't explain SAFE without explaining House Merrick. Cases of any great ruling family, lineage of House Merrick boasts many extraordinary members. In the early days of the Free World League, the Merricks served as military leaders for a loose confederation of principalities, jealously guarding its own powers and rights against encroachment by a central government. The League's founding states supported 3 different intelligence agencies, none of which initially shared its resources. The hereditary office of Captain General Merrick, appointed by Parliament and designated the League's military leader during times of crisis, constituted the League's only central authority. Constant tension between Parliament and the Captain General prompted the creation of boundaries to power that no Merrick could cross without risking dismissal. The more or less constant state of war prevailed in the inner sphere until the founding of the Star League in 2571 meant that the Parliament rarely exercised its legal right to remove the Captain General. It goes on about the first centralized intelligence, the National Intelligence Agency, or NIA, which was then eventually replaced by leading Parliament to disband and replace it with SAFE, an intelligence organization under Parliament's direct control. SAFE's fortunes and activities throughout the century since its formation have been closely followed by the power struggles between Parliament and the successive Captain Generals. So, one of the hamstring SAFE is its effectiveness, is the fact that it's a political animal and it's dependent on internal conflict or internal support of the Parliament for its budget and operational expenses and directives, which don't always jive with what the Captain General requires and needs. But the Captain General is denied the ability to create yet another agency that will serve him and his needs directly as part of a checks and balances kind of thing. It causes a lot of problems. She's like here, continuing a task begun with the reign of Thomas Merrick's father Janos, SAFE monitors the activities of all members of the Free World Parliament. Although Thomas enjoys a loyalty, most MPs use the SAFE surveillance to ensure most of those loyalties remain to him and warn him of waivers. Just saying, it is a hot mess. There's many running jokes and gags about SAFE, and a lot of that's true. That's not to say that they don't have some effectiveness. They do have some crack agents. They do have some abilities. They do get the job done, but perhaps not as neatly and as timely as in other houses, which for an intelligence service, for what their real purpose and role is, what they're supposed to be, means that they're not quite as effective as what they could be. They are and were until the Clan Watch shows up. Clan Watch makes these guys look superb. These guys are the ISF and Milo compared to the Clan Watch, at least in the early days anyway. Right? Comstar's Captain General, new alliances, command structure, safe branches, analyst, information gathering, counterintelligence, covert operations, headquarters and training, strengths and weaknesses. Greatest single weakness that throughout the history affected the performance of SAFE, the political power struggle between the Captain General and the Free World's Parliament, has all but ceased to exist under the leadership of the current Captain General. SAFE, once prevented from operating effectively by the Intelligence Act and other legal limits passed by the Parliament, now functions as a strong arm of the Captain General, who successfully consolidated political and legal power in his office and his person to an extent never believed possible. So, then we have this recent influx of crack rum intelligence agents from the splintered Comstar also bolsters. So in later decades, the SAFE becomes much more effective and much more dangerous to their foes. So then they've got our personalities and things like this. And we get into Comstar and the word of Blake. Perhaps at the height of the Comstar, ROM is the most effective, by far the most effective intelligence gathering organization in the inner sphere at that time. And after the Battle of Tukyad and the disintegration or the splintering of Comstar and the word of break, it's not so much. It becomes a hot mess as well, with a lot of internal conflict between the two factions and internal factions within them as well. So, right. It goes through brief history, foundation of ROM and the Comstar War, witch hunts, dangerous games. Depending on what centaur is in charge, it depends on just how violent and how effective the ROM is. The Warley era, coming of the clans, Reformation, command structure, various branches. ROM, Comstar, Wood Blake. Then we get to the watch. The lengths at which the inner sphere was prepared to go in order to win the war against the clans caught the invaders by surprise. Steeped in traditions of honor above all, the clans only learned to take into account the inner sphere intelligence agencies' underhanded tactics through painful, unexpected defeats. Clan Wolf, its leadership, half inner sphere already, has adapted the fastest to the new rules of the game, but Clan Jade Falcon slowly merging with the intelligence game with the way of the clans may prove the more formidable enemy. So we get the overview of the watch and their purpose and how they initially got started. Summary, brief history. Each clan has its own branch of the watch, and the watch is supposed to be an inter-clan organization that collaborates and shares information, which isn't always the case. Each clan has its own watch, and so that means each watch element is much more successful and better equipped and better staffed than others. And some clans despise the entire concept of secret, any kind of stuff that these agencies do and conduct. It's just total asthma of above board, honorable blah. That the clans, so this hamstrings some of their units, some of their effectiveness, and continues to do so. Although the watch still provides valuable information in spite of the lack of cooperation and support within its own supporting parent organizations. So we got the Clan Wolf, Jade Falcon as examples, but they don't break out. Just keeping in mind that these are just two of the existing clans, and every clan has their own version of this. So we got the intelligence skill package, university packages, and we got some ready-to-make archetypes: clan field agent, covert operations, counterintelligence operative, deep cover operative, diplomatic corps operative, special forces, rogue operative, intelligence operative. That's something that it doesn't really touch on in here, but based on some of the novels and information, the stories, the books, there are some organizations, or not organizations, but independents. There are mercenary agents and rogue non-house related agencies with their own versions of intelligence services that do their stuff. But anyway, this is an awesome book. Lots of information. It really gives you some deeper insights into the various houses and their processes of how they handle things like intelligence and counterintelligence, and just how intertwined these agencies are with the success or less success of their parent organizations. So, anyway, this is Rick, and I hope you guys have a great weekend.